การก่อการร้ายล่ะคะยิ่งเมืองไทยเพิ่งจะมีประกาศเตือนก่อการร้ายเรื่องนี้นี่ทางด้านของโทนี่แบร์เองเขามองยังไงบ้างคะ
เขามองว่ามันเป็นปัญหาใหญ่เพราะว่ามันเกิดมาจากความขัดแย้งในเรื่องของศาสนาด้านหนึ่งและเรื่องของการเมืองอีกด้านหนึ่งและเขาก็มองว่ามันจะไม่จบง่ายๆเขาใช้คำว่ากว่าที่เรื่องอย่างนี้การก่อการร้ายจะหมดสงสัยจะต้องอีก1 generation.
Since you left office about 5 years ago, has the world become a more dangerous place?
I think, you mean security terms? It's not become less dangerous. Look, my view of this is a view some people would disagree with very strongly, but I think you've got the same basic question going on in security terms, which is this question about radical Islamism,
yes.
and is it possible to counter it effectively? Now, I think it is, but it's a long-term issue. It'll take a generation to defeat it.
A generation?
Yes, I think it's not a short-term battle, this, and it requires security measures on the one hand, but on the other hand, and this is why I promote this idea of religious understanding, it also requires us to realize this is in part a religious problem, and you've got to deal with it. The underlying roots of it lie in a perversion of religion, right? And where I think, politicians make a mistake is when they, because people find religion a very difficult issue in politics, so people want to say, look, it's not really about religion, it's about politics.
Yeah.
And I always say to people, you can say that, but unfortunately the people engaged in this extremism, they believe it is about religion. So if you don't deal with this aspect of religion, then you don't deal with the issue. So my view is that you need, on the one hand, security measures, of course. These people, I mean, the most extreme of them are prepared to use terrorism to kill innocent people, so you've got to have security measures in place. But the deeper question lies in a culture where people believe religion is very important, and people who don't share their religion are enemies.
Yeah. We just had a warning from various embassies, including the British embassy here, about possible terrorist threat in Bangkok. And one suspect has been arrested from Lebanon. Thai police claim that he is a member of the Hezbollah group. You think, you have been to the Middle East many times. You think that the Arab Spring as well, the revolutions going on there, the deep-rooted hatred, and the religious security issues, would they together make the world less stable?
Yes, I think they do make the world less stable, and that's why it's important that in the Middle East particularly, with these Arab revolutions, the risk is very clear. I mean, of course, a lot of the impulse behind those revolutions are to do with democracy, to do with the economy and freedom and so on. But the emerging force in the Middle East is the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yes.
Right. Now,
is that a good or bad thing?
Well, it is only good if there is a process of change and reform that happens within that organization. Because if you end up in a situation where you have Islamist regimes in the Middle East that basically believe people who aren't the same as them are, potential enemies, well, you've got a problem. Now, I think Muslim Brotherhood covers a wide spectrum. So I think, for example, you can look at the party in Tunisia, and the leaders of that have been saying very sensible things, very moderate things. They want to work with other people. They're Muslim, fine. That's people's right. I'm a Christian. You're a Muslim. We can work together. But some of the other elements, emerging in other parts of the Middle East, and you mentioned Hezbollah,
yes,
which are effectively in control of Lebanon. You've got the Salafist organizations in Egypt. I mean, these are pretty extreme, I'm afraid. And they do not believe that those of us who are different, are to be treated the same way.
Was the departure of Gaddafi a good sign or bad sign for the Middle East?
Well,
you met him many times. How many times is he?
I probably met him, about 6 times.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Were you sad when he died?
Look, he ended up, he had a choice, really.
Yeah.
And this is the choice for these types of regimes. He could have, because he changed his external policy, he gave up his nuclear chemical weapons, he started to help in the fight
And
against
that's why
it.
you went to see him.
Yeah, absolutely. But in the end, I'm afraid he wasn't prepared to change his system of government. And then he ended up killing his people. So, you know, in the end, his removal was the right thing.
What kind of a guy was he, Gaddafi? You met him many times, you talked to him a lot. Was he basically as crazy as he was portrayed to be?
Not in the sense that anyone who stays in power for 40 years is, you know, has got certain attributes. But the problem was he couldn't see that in the end, the change that you have to make in the world today
State of denial.
Yeah,
think?
yeah, absolutely. So you had to open up the country. Now, you know, they made some reforms, but they were very tentative and they weren't prepared to give up power. I mean, it's the same with what's happening in Syria today. Look, in the end, Assad has got to understand you can't have a system where power is handed down from father to son like that. It doesn't work.